And we are live. I am Adam. This is Open Late, and tonight I am opening the G.I. Joe Classified retro carded Duke. A figure that I'm pretty excited about, but I'm kind of I'm a little on the fence. I really like the first version of Duke that we got in the Classified series. He came out with the first wave. I want to say 2 years ago now, 3 years ago, 3 years ago now, 2021, June of 2021. And I thought he was a near perfect figure when the first version came out. Then they updated him with the field variant, which removed the gold and some of the details that people weren't super excited about. And I thought that version was a great upgrade from even the first version. Those versions of Duke I love because they're sort of modern updates of a vintage figure. Excuse me. This retro carded Duke is very much a vintage inspired, kind of head to toe vintage inspired figure. And as great as this is, I just don't know if this is what I want my classified collection to be. That being said, I absolutely love this figure. It looks fantastic. But what I'm going to do is I am going to kind of do my unboxing of this and sort of give my opinion on this. But I'm going to compare it to the first version. Well, sorry, the field variant version. And see if I can sort of come to a decision one way or the other. You know, do I prefer this? Am I cool with this? Or do I like the modern update? Or is there something in the middle? Do I need parts from both to sort of get the perfect Duke? I don't know. Anyways, it's good to have you guys along for the ride as I rack my brain trying to decide whether I need two versions of multiple characters and things like that. Obviously, for some characters, I do. I mean, I love every version of Snake Eyes, and when you do versions that are different enough, I will buy them. This version of Duke is different enough that I think I'm into it. I'm also sort of leaning towards almost having a sub collection. I'm picking and choosing with the retro carded ones. I'm not buying all of them. I don't like every one of the designs. I've said this before, and I'm sort of sticking to it. The version of Cobra Commander that we got in Classified is phenomenal. I don't really like the retro carded one. I got the Mickey Mouse Cobra Commander with the his tank. I sold it, and I don't regret that at all. It just, that version is great, but it feels dated to me. Anyways, checking in with the chat. Jeff Morris is here. What's going on, Jeff? How are you? Brick something. I'm game for some retro Duke action. Great looking figure. Yeah, it is a great looking figure. It's just whether or not I need this version of Duke, I guess. Solo Center says, I'm on the fence with this one, and this review will likely push me over. Now, Solo Center, I got to ask you this. Do you have the previous version? I'm curious. But anyway. Christopher Bouchard, which is a name that I don't recognize. When will the last AWOC new figure be reviewed? If you mean the horrid mongrel, I don't know. I got one, and I actually gave it to Van Johnson of the Purple Gang Gang, because they've been asking for that figure for months, and so I did them a solid and gave them the hyena. I'll have mine, soon enough, but I'll have sort of a standard production run one, and as soon as I can get it in hand, I will review it. But I don't have it. I don't have the horrid mongrel, so. Loco Base Walker, what's going on, Luke? Quip is here. I'm here to see if I should get this Duke to go with the new Retro Cobra Commander. You know what? I will say this. If you're getting the Retro Cobra Commander, you need this Duke. Straight up, that's my answer. Quip says, I may hold out for retro carded Sergeant Slaughter. I could see that happening, but I will tell you this. The non-retro carded Sergeant Slaughter, I think, is pretty darn close to what you would get in a retro carded one. There's no different accessories. The paint apps, like the deco, is pretty much the same. Unless you're waiting on that USA version. But Solo Center says, I'm glad they did a different head sculpt for him. Makes it easier to justify a second purchase. Don't like having the same face on the Joes in the display. Yes, that's what I'm thinking too. And I'm thinking to myself, does this replace Duke? And then does Duke become, a different character? Is it his brother or his cousin? Or do I do a head swap and sort of use it as just kit bash or something? I don't know. Solo says, I do have the field variant and so happy with it too. Head sculpt is A+. Yep, that field variant Duke is in my top 5 classified figures that have come out so far. Like, of the 100+ figures, he's still in my top 5. Let's see. Yeah, I don't need any of these. I use the term need very loosely when I'm talking about toys. We don't need any of these. Jeff Moore says, I have Tiger Force Duke and this retro Duke. I really like this figure. Yeah, well, the Tiger Force Duke, I think, is the previous version. So you have 2 different Dukes, which is cool. I wish the Tiger Force Duke had come with darker brown hair, as he did with the vintage figure. Then I might have bought it. I passed on the Tiger Force, but then I passed on all the Tiger Force stuff. So I guess, I wasn't going to go out and get that one just for that reason. The only Tiger Force figure that I have is the Outback, because I kind of think it's uniquely interesting in the fact that it was a European release and a bit of a deep cut, which I thought was really, really cool. Okay, retro carded Duke. So the retro card, this round of retro carded figures on a much stiffer card back. So they're using the same technique that they've used with like the animated series Spider-Man, or the retro carded X-Men, stuff like that, where it's a wrap. So they basically print, the 2 sides and then fold it and then sandwich the bubble inside the 2 sides of cardboard. And it works so much better. It's so much more rigid, and it actually feels like cardboard. The single card is fine for really small figures, but once they get bigger, once they get sort of hefty like this, it just doesn't work. They're just too flimsy, and it probably wouldn't have stood up like this if it was just the sort of single carded, or sort of the single thickness of cardboard. It also looks a lot cleaner to have the bubbles, tucked in there. This is, to me, this is becoming sort of the standard. I know, a lot of lines are doing it this way. I was even looking at the packaging for like the Cyberzoic action figures, and they're doing it this way, where it's folded and sort of sandwiched in there. So really, really cool. I like that it's a little bit thicker. If you are an in-box collector and you're going to hang this on a wall, this is going to hang much, much better than the other versions did. The art is cool. I like that it is, vintage inspired. It looks very much like the original Duke card art. I still don't like that they didn't do the white border. I mean, I think the white border would have pushed these over the edge and really would have made this package stand out. It's unique, but it doesn't stand out as much without that white border. To me, that white border was kind of iconic for GI Joe figures. Anyway, on the back, speaking of iconic, we get the file card. And file cards never did anything for me, which is why the retro carded figures kind of don't do much for me. They're retro versions of figures that I typically already have. I'm not going to keep the filed cards. I'm not going to cut out the file cards. So there you go. It would be cool, like if you go to like 1988 or something with GI Joes, and you see the cross sell on the back of those. It was reversed, right? The file card was at the bottom, and then the cross sell was at the top, and there would be like 30 characters in there. If they had that, and if that's how we knew which characters were available, I would be all for it. But there's 3 in this wave. They're all shown on the back here. The file card is pretty minimal because it's in 5 languages, so there's only so much they can fit in there. It is what it is. I like what they're trying to do. I like that they're trying to do as vintage as they can. They're trying to appeal to that market. They're trying to sort of check all the boxes as far as what they're doing with these. But it's just a toy, and I'm going to open it up. So I'm going to open it up. Let me see. Before I open it up, I'll just quickly check in with the chat, and then I'll cut this with a big old knife. Let's see. Where are we here? Skipping through the conversations that you guys are sort of having amongst yourselves. Mr. Backtastic says, I added the Tiger Force Duke brown web gear to the retro Duke, and I think I may have my perfect Duke. That's a good idea. Just a little more contrast. There's a lot of green on green with this one, so. Brick says they did a great job on the packaging, but I'm a visual nerd, and the lack of the outer white border makes me itchy. Yeah, it's like, why couldn't they just put it on there? I don't know. The only thing I can think is maybe it makes it harder for the factory. Like, I assume that this is like done by a machine, and maybe the machine can't get the white border right. I don't know. That's literally the only reason that I could think of that they wouldn't do it. So, let's see. Cobweb, what's going on? Popping by to say what's up. Let's see. Christopher Bouchard says the only GI Joe that I have is the vintage GI Joe Extreme Iron Claw. Those GI Joe Extreme figures were actually kind of cool. I dug those. A little late for me. I didn't actually collect those, but the designs are good. So let's see. Brick, what's that white edge on the left side? Is that because the cardboard is doubled up and glued badly? I think you mean on the back here. There's a little bit, yeah, and this is what I'm talking about. So this is sort of overlapped, and actually, if you look here too, you can see that it's offset. And so that's what I'm thinking, is that maybe the machine has a hard time centering the graphics. Like, I keep thinking that these are maybe done in a sheet and then like punched, like cut out with a punch. And so maybe that's like the issue. Video Power Gaming is here. What's going on? Good to have you. Quib says, I wasn't that into G.I. Joe as a kid, so I hadn't noticed the white border was missing. And fair enough. And that's the thing, is that like, I think it's one of those nitpicky things that like most people probably don't care about. It's just, to me, it was always there, and it should always be there. And it's sort of like the lack of it makes me want it more. If they had put it there, I would have been like, oh, that's cool. But the fact that they don't makes me sort of more upset than rationally I probably should be. Anyway, I'm back to the big knife today. I'm doing a big knife cut. It's just so much faster if I don't stab myself. That's a big if with a big knife. I should have done this ahead of time, but I didn't. And I should have grabbed the sharper knife, but I didn't. And I probably could have just ripped this off, but I didn't. All right. And because I'm not keeping the packaging, yo, Joe. That's a really good head sculpt, though. First impression, that's a really good head sculpt. Ooh, that's okay. First impression in hand. This is a little bit better than I thought it was going to be. Dang it! All right, let me get this guy set up. See how big that card back is, though. Like normally, when I shoot videos, it's like you see like that much. This is like maxed out. Like that's the top. That is the top of this display. So let me quickly adjust my camera, which I promise I will only do once if I can get a good spot. Yeah, that'll do. That'll do. There we go. There we go. Adjust my chair. Okay, I'm ready to roll. Let's see. I suspect that whoever handled pre-press somehow miscommunicated that it's full bleed when it shouldn't have been. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it could just be one of those things where it was just that much quicker and easier to do it this way. Like, and they just kind of went, yeah, whatever, nobody will notice. And maybe they'll do it in the future. I don't know. I'd throw these retro cards out anyway, so it doesn't matter. Um, could be an intentional attempt to differentiate, which is a bad call when you're actively trying to capture the retro nostalgia. Exactly. That's what I'm saying, is that like the people that remember those card backs, I think are absolutely going to want that white border. But anyway, oh, good call. I saw those Misfits figures today. They look awesome. I really want to get those. I really want to get those reaction, the Richard Scarry Busy Town reaction figures, but like I need those. Really do want them though. Cliff says it's a great head sculpt. It looks just like Channing Tatum. Well, that's what I never realized I was missing in my collection. It was a Channing Tatum head sculpt. Ooh, New Adventures He-Man. That could work too. Mattel needs help with their head sculpts. Hasbro's ruling with their heads. Yeah. What gets me is like, how many versions of He-Man have they done in the Masterverse line, and they still haven't nailed it. Jeff Morris, I still cut out the file cards on the retro cards. The thicker cards are great, but make my hand hurt cutting them. You gotta get a cardboard cutter. Anyways, Duke, yeah, the head sculpt is fantastic. Very, very handsome looking head sculpt. Great jawline. The paint app, like the shading is really, really good. I don't know if it's gonna fully come through, but in person it looks fantastic. There's a little bit of shading to the hair too, so it's not just like, I think there's sort of just a wash. So he's got blonde hair, but he's got a little bit of a wash. He's blonder than the previous version, which I think works for Duke. You know, sort of the golden boy with his golden hair. This is, as I said, a very vintage Duke inspired look. You know, he's I mean, he's almost identical to the vintage figure in so many ways. Really good looking figure. There's a few things going on here that I'm very pleased with. There's a couple things that I don't like. I do like this torso articulation. So they've gone, you know, it's not an ab crunch. It's now, you know, the barbell sort of torso. So he's got good rotation, good sort of articulation. It'll be better when I heat him up. You know, obviously after he gets a hot bath, he will be very, very limber. However, maybe that. Oh, I wonder what's going on here. Okay, so one shoulder looks okay. There's a little bit of a gap as far as the sculpt goes, but it doesn't look that bad. On this side, there's a big gap. Now, I wonder if that can be fixed with heat, or I wonder if that's a sculpted thing. Like, the shoulder seems weird on this side. Huh. Like, it seems slightly different on this side than on the other side. Do you see what I see there? Like, this one seems to fit quite nicely. This one doesn't. And it's that top corner, but it's also this bottom corner. Weird. That's very weird. I wonder if heat can sort of set it better. It almost seems like it's rotated in there. Kind of funny. Anyway, the other thing that I noticed, these weird gaps on the tops of the arms. I don't know why some figures are doing that. I don't know what the heck is going on that those shoulders got worse. Like, in the first couple waves, I don't remember ever seeing those. And then more recently, it's just sort of appeared, and it just looks weird, and I don't like it. It's not that bad. I mean, you don't see it from the front, you don't see it from the back, but you know, I guess you do if the arms raised from the back. You can see that nice big gap there. There's a dark hole. It seems like they could not have that. Like, it seems like they could easily not have that. Anyways, sculpt wise, you know, other than those little nitpicks, those are more engineering things than sculpt issues. The boots look good, the pants look good, the holster looks good. They've included the belt on the sort of diaper bit that goes over the crotch piece. His bandolier looks good as well. So all in all, like I said, all in all, a very, very good looking figure, very handsome, very striking figure. This feels like a real American hero, you know, as Duke should. Let's see. Let's see. Game Quest is here. What's going on, buddy? It says traveling but checking in nonetheless, of course. Duke is my favorite classified figure of the year. That OG Real American helmet, Real American Hero helmet. Yeah, we'll get there. I haven't looked at the accessories just yet, but I absolutely will. I hope you're not driving and commenting. Um, be safe. Uh, Jeff Moore says, I never noticed that until you pointed it out, and now I can't unsee it. Well, I apologize, but also, um, as somebody that is very positive about toys and always sort of very forgiving, I'm okay with it. Like, it doesn't mean that I won't buy another, classified figure because of this. I just don't know why they do it. I just don't know why. Like, I don't understand, what part of the process do they go, yeah, just do it with the weird shoulders when they've done it without the weird shoulders and it works fine. I don't think that improves articulation. But maybe there's something that I don't know that Hasbro does. You know what I mean? Anyway, what's up with those shoulder gaps? Started with low light. Low light, I really wanted low light to be a great figure, but there was so many weird engineering things that didn't work for me. Brick says, "Hey, how do the backpack peg holes on these compare with AWOC?" Well, as it happens, as it happens, I have an AWOC figure. I will come back to this one because I can do a side by side comparison. Brick says, on a train from Hiroshima to Tokyo, got a few more days left on the trip. It seems like Brick's always on a train when I'm doing videos. I wonder if he coordinate. Brick, do you coordinate your train schedule with my video schedule? Is that what's happening? Jeff Moore says, I thought I saw Spiro was having a sale. Is that true, or am I just wishing it? No, there is, as of, I think it's on right now, 15% off any in-stock items. And 15% is pretty good, I think. Let's see. Good. Not driving, about to drift off to sleep and saw the notification you were live. Priorities. Well, I should hope that you're not going to fall asleep while driving. So that's good. Oh, yeah. Let's see. Brick something says use code IND424 starting 12 a.m. July 4th. It will be in, I think, Central Time Zone. So that would be so it's usually 2 hours for me. So it'll be like 10 p.m. my time. If you're on the East Coast, it's actually probably 1 a.m. But yeah. Let's see. It's totally coordinated. Plus, it's midday, so serendipity. Nice. That's cool. Okay, let's take a look at the accessories. First up, the most boring but sort of a cool thing that they include. These bases are great. I tend to use these on all the female figures that don't stand up quite as well as most of the male figures do. We get the backpack, super vintage inspired. It's got some text on there. It says G.I. Joe, a real American hero, and then some other stuff. Wherever there is trouble over land and sea and air, G.I. Joe is there. That's actually really, really cool. I'm shocked that I can read that, but it's really because it's like easy to guess, and then once you start guessing, you can kind of pre-guess the words. And then this is tiny, like the font on this is absolutely tiny. So if you can't read it, don't feel bad. I guarantee my wife wouldn't be able to read that. Then he comes with his little machine gun. This is 100% the gun that he got in the vintage figure. Uh, the binoculars are like a perfect recreation of the vintage ones. So in a lot of ways, this is like a perfect vintage Duke. Oh, it came with fists too. That's I take it back. The stand's not the least exciting thing. I think the fists are probably the least exciting thing. So I'll put those over there. They'll be out of sight, out of mind. A little dagger, nice painted blade, nice painted handle as well. That's actually really, really well done. On the vintage figure, I think this was just sort of in the sculpt. It was just tucked into his boot. So it's cool to get that. A pistol as well. And again, this pistol would have just been part of the sculpt. So they did update this. I think we've had this pistol before, so that's cool. We get a helmet. Now, the original Duke helmet was just a green helmet. It didn't come with the visor, but I like that they included the visor so that you can sort of use it if you wish. Mine is, of course, quite crooked, which is hard to show because it's so small. But I also think this pops off, or I suspect this pops off. Or I'm going to pop this one off of mine. Now, again, I think heat will be my friend in that respect. I will pop mine. I will pop the visor off of mine because the vintage Duke didn't have the visor, and I think it's weird that they would include the visor now. But whatever. Like I said, it's cool that it's there because you could use it for another figure or do whatever you want. Now, the last accessory, I'm excited every time we get one of these. So this is 100% a Sunbow, detail. This is the what's it called? XLR 15, I think is what it's called, or the Snow Job rifle. But so it came with the vintage Snow Job, but in the Sunbow cartoon, every single GI Joe used this thing, and I love this. This to me is like the most iconic GI Joe accessory you could possibly get. So I like that we're getting this with a bunch of figures, retro carded and otherwise. Like it seems to be popping up with just sort of random figures. It doesn't have to be a figure that needed that. But I also like that they're including different options. So if you want to go like Sunbow Duke, you can kind of do that. Although it's not Sunbow, that would be cool if they did. I know Super 7's doing it, but if Hasbro did like a Sunbow cartoon accurate deco for these figures, that might get me a little bit. If they did it like Super 7 did, where they include some accessories that are like straight out of the cartoon, they might get me with those. Don't get me wrong, the Super 7 ones are nice, but for G.I. Joe, I want the articulation. And because there is the articulation in the classified line, I'm all in on the classified. And that's kind of the line that works for me. So anyway, there is Duke. There are all the accessories. He's looking absolutely awesome. I do dig that it's super vintage. But I dig it because I know a lot of people want it. It's not really my jam. Like, this is a fantastic figure, which is why I got it. Sort of the same thing with the retro Scarlet. I think the other versions of Scarlet were fantastic as well, but to get that iconic version of Scarlet, it did make sense, and it made more sense to me than this one does, because as I said, the retro Duke is pretty awesome. Or not retro Duke, this is the retro Duke. The classified retro Duke, the throwback to 3 years ago. Anyway, I'm going to check the comments here and try to catch up, and then I'll do a little bit of a comparison with the Duke. I will bring Brick's question back as far as the backpack peg, and then I'll probably wrap it up. But Master Versal Toy Hunter is here. Good to see you, Eldor. It's been a while. But I'm happy to have you. Good to hear from you. Let's see. Fists as accessories are exciting for classified. Yes, don't get me wrong, they are. We haven't had enough extra hands. And I think it's good that they're including them. I have no issue with extra hands. They're just not as exciting as some other things that you can get with your figure. But yeah, I mean, for toy photography and for posing, and now that we're getting more boxers and more martial artists in the line, a couple sets of fists is probably not a bad thing to have. Clearly, Duke's never had to use that shovel. Text is pristine, absolutely, and it's printed in white, which seems odd. I think it would be printed in black if I, not wrong. But um, let's see. Jeff Morris. I wish every Joe had that rifle. Exactly. I wish every GI Joe classified figure going forward would come with that rifle. And I mean GI Joes. I don't think the Cobra should come with that. I don't know what the Cobra guys should come with. Maybe there could be a standard weapon that came with them too. That would be really, really cool. Brick said fists are my favorite hand. Now if I could get a piece and F off F off UK hands. No, we got horns with rock and roll. I feel like that might come at some point. I feel like, oh, you know who it would be good if it came with would be Footloose. I feel like Footloose would be the right character to get that. Let's see. I want a retro carded Scarlet with the busted short hair face from the vintage. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I get what you mean. I get what you mean. Like a real vintage head sculpt with Scarlet. Yeah, that would be terrible and nobody would buy it but you. They'd sell one and they wouldn't know why it was such a bad seller. Um, let's see. Mr. Wonderful is here. What's going on, buddy? And I just ordered a second retro. Why a second one? What did you need a second one for? You've already got another version of Duke. Like, why a second one? Anyways, okay, how am I going to gear this guy up? He is going to get these, obviously. This is going to go in here. I'm going to gear this guy up while I just sort of mumble to myself, and then I'll compare this Duke to the previous version of Duke. I will take a look at the backpack, and we'll go from there. This is a fantastic figure. I will say that. Like, the retro stuff doesn't really hit for me quite as much as it does for other people, but I do like that they're doing it. As I said, I think it's awesome that people are getting the option and sort of the opportunity to get these versions of these figures, because this is what a lot of people were hoping classified would be. I just happen to be in the minority that wants updates. I want modern versions. I don't want one-to-one scaled up versions. And I know that, like, some of the details are changed and stuff like that. But generally speaking, it just it doesn't I don't know. They're not the Joes that I want as a 42-year-old. As a 42-year-old, I want updates. I still got the vintage ones. Can I get this helmet to sit under his arm? Probably not. Nah, it's not gonna sit there properly, especially if I keep bumping the table. Oh, before I put I won't put the backpack on for now, but what is cool about the classified stuff, like these don't sit very well, right? But if I'm gonna display it with these on here, what I will do is heat these up when I heat the figure up, and then kind of pose them on the figure, and then they'll sit perfectly, and they'll probably sit there forever if I don't sort of mess around with it or whatever. So, all right, the backpack I'm not going to put on because you won't be able to see it anyway. Plus, I can check how that fits on an AWOC figure in a minute. Okay, let's see. Oh, Solo Sinner. I will get there momentarily. Um, let's see. AWOC related, great job on Hawkin review. Looks so good. You showed him off really well. I wish you did Mongrel. The PGG review was fine, but wanted to see the paint, the back. Wonder if the fur collar comes off, etc. Yeah, we'll get there. And that's the thing is that like I hung out a bunch with those guys at Joe Fest, and they're just such great guys. And honestly, their positivity is just something that I love, and those guys are wild animals, but they are really great dudes with such good intentions, and I wish them the best, and it was sort of the least that I could do. um they want to do anything that they can to help Animal Warriors of the Kingdom, and I'll be honest, I know that I'm going to get a bunch of those hyenas, and everybody else is too. I didn't feel like I needed to get one to sort of show people to like sell them on that figure. I like everybody that sees that hyena wants that hyena. So as I said, as soon as I get one in hand, I will definitely do a review. But having played with it in hand, played with a production version of it, it is awesome. As far as the fur collar coming off, I think it does. I still haven't had a chance to pull the one off of Hawkin. It's the same fur collar that comes on the hyena though. So just for reference, if it comes off one, it'll come off the other. But the paint is beautiful. Like the figure is beautiful, but I already got to play with it, so I thought I would just be nice and give it to them. I will say this: I was like 90% okay with it. There's 10% of me that wishes that I had that figure to review, but as I said, I'll get it soon enough. So, um, let's see here. But thank you so much for the super chat, Solo Sinner. I very very much appreciate it. Mr. Wonderful says, "I'm in Canada. Where are you? Where are you at? I bet it's not anywhere near me." Like Never News, there are plenty of us who wanted busted vintage Scarlet and Classified. Dozens, literally dozens. You would have done a better job. But that's the thing. I don't think it's about doing a better job. You know what I mean? Like they have their style, they have what they're doing, and it's cool. And I just wanted their viewers and that group of people to get some exposure to Animal Warriors of the Kingdom. And I thought, I knew I would be opening and reviewing some of them, and as I said, I'm still going to do that one. I'm 100% still going to do that one. If I got that figure a year from now, I'd still do it. It doesn't matter. um because I know that not everybody's going to watch the Purple Gang review, um and not everybody sort of appreciates what they do and how they do it, but absolutely wanted to kind of do something for them. As I said, they're so eager and so willing to sort of do stuff for us, that it just felt right. um Pervert. Let's see. Game Quest, why a second? I can keep a favorite character carded and use one as a pocket figure. My favorite Joe of the year in a nostalgic version in current form of what my head always imagined. Okay, that's fair. That's absolutely fair. I have carded versions. I'm slowly starting to get carded versions of some of my absolute favorites. Um, just to have sort of like as touch points. I'm not an in-box collector, but it is. Yeah, I get it. I totally get what your sort of motivation is there, and it makes perfect sense. Um, let's see. Let's see. Made the right call on the mongrel. Spread the love. That's just it, man. It, it you know I, I love AWOC, but I want everybody else to love AWOC too. So the more eyes we can get on it, the better. The more figures we can sell, the better, because that means we can make more figures and different figures and new figures, and we can make them faster, and we can make them faster, stronger, better. What's the anyway? Brick says in reference to Amanda, who is my wife. For anybody that doesn't know, the fact that you watch it all is amazing. Joe, Brick's wife, has never watched one of mine. I like it that way. It keeps her from doing the math. Yeah, I asked my wife today how much something cost, and she said, I can't exactly remember. It was about, and then she told me a number, and I was like, okay, if that's how these things go from now on, that's how I'm gonna answer those questions. But I've said this before. Nothing, I'm not hiding anything from Amanda. There's there's no point. She'd find out. All right, Retro Duke compared to Field Variant Duke. There he is. He is darker, obviously. So the fatigues are a much darker green. There's sort of more of a gray to them. The shirt is much darker, more of a tan than the beige of the retro one. This guy is very much more accurate, in terms of its proximity to the vintage figure. This one feels like an update. This one feels like, okay, so this is sort of how, the only way I kind of know how to explain it. This feels like what G.I. Joe would be if the same designers were working through the lens of like the time that we're in right now. This feels how do I explain it? This feels like near future military through an 80s lens, and this is near future military through a 2020 lens, if that makes sense. So what I loved about GI Joe when I was a kid, and what I want from GI Joe now, is near future military. And so this one doesn't do it for me anymore, because this one feels like it's from the 1980s. Whereas this one, with like the Joe Pro, the sort of updated weapons, the metal shin guards, and some of those details, it just feels more like what I want classified to be. Objectively, I will say this. I think this retro Duke is probably a little bit better figure. They've learned a lot in 3 years. The ab articulation, pinless. Oh, I didn't even notice that. He totally pinless. Pinless arms, pinless legs. This is pinned legs and arms. The sculpting is better. The sculpting is cleaner. The paint apps are a little bit crisper and a little bit tighter. The hair on this guy. Let's look at the hair to compare. You can see that there's like a paint app to get the effect for the field variant for the first version. This one's really, really subtle, and it looks really good. The head sculpts as well. Like, the head sculpts are both really good. I like both head sculpts. But I got to give it to the Retro Duke. I'm going to say that objectively, the Retro Duke is probably the better figure. I can't pick one, though. I honestly can't pick one. The good news is this, and I just thought of this. I have multiples of this. If I get another one of these, I can kit bash them. I like this head better. I like the pinless. Oh, but I can't swap the legs because this is pinned, and I could swap the boots. I don't know. I mean, I don't. I'm torn. I'm honestly torn. They're both really, really good. I really like Duke. I really like both of these figures. And if I can have 17 Snake Eyes in my collection, I think 2 Dukes is probably fine. They're both good. Buy them both. There you go. There's my verdict. I don't think that's gonna help anybody. No, they're both really, really good. I think it's I get why they're doing these ones. I would have been perfectly happy with this. I would not have been perfectly happy with only one Snake Eyes, even though the first version, the Double O Hasbro Pulse exclusive one, is still my favorite one. I still need version 4 amongst other versions, but yeah, so super cool. Very, very excited. Okay, the hole in the back for an AWOC figure. So I just have a Primal Ancient here. Just for reference, that's how tall Primal Ancient is in compared to a classified figure. Quite a bit taller, considerably bigger. There is the G.I. Joe backpack. Does it fit? It does. It fits. It holds. It's not in there very far because the peg on the backpack is quite short. The shape of the back for the Animal Warriors of the Kingdom figure is sort of sculpted in a way that there's a little bit of a valley in between his shoulders there. So it fits, but it doesn't hold very well. So there's your answer. Now I can put it on the figure. And because the back of the classified figure is quite flat, it fits really, really nice. So that goes in really, really well. That's a good strong hold. That's not coming out. So there you go. Some comparisons. All right, that's all I got for Duke. But if you guys have any questions, comments, fire away. We'll chat for a couple minutes, and then I will wrap it up. Master Bristol Toy Hunter says, I much prefer the updated classified myself, but yes, still, I suppose I might still get one or two of these. Yeah, I got the retro carded Snake Eyes, obviously. I got retro carded Scarlet. I got this guy retro carded. So there's a few characters that I think warrant having, like a vintage inspired version. But as a general rule, I prefer the sort of near future updates, a la 2020s. Let's see. Solo Center, yeah, they can coexist on the shelf. They don't look like clones. Both great looking face sculpts, and that's just it. That was part of my motivation for this one and for the Scarlet, to be honest, is that they look different enough that they kind of warrant their own place. If they had just reused the head sculpts, I probably would have passed on both. But it definitely makes it a little bit easier to put them on a shelf. I'm probably going to end up doing like an original 13 shelf, and I think Vintage Duke will go on that shelf along with Vintage Scarlet, who is a original 13. So, yeah, that's my one complaint about the Masterverse stuff is that it just doesn't feel as good for basically the same price as these. It doesn't feel quite as good in terms of just the overall, objective comparisons between, two major corporations, two nostalgic IPs, similar scales, similar price points, on and on and on. These are just better figures. And then these guys come and bang you over the head, and you're like, uh-oh, there's other people in that space doing really, really good stuff as well. So yeah, there's just that's what I don't understand the most about the Masterverse stuff, is that they don't really seem to care that it's not up to par with the other guys. They just keep rolling them out. Yeah, what was perceived as the future back then. Yeah, exactly. And that's sort of where this guy stands versus, what is perceived as the future now. So that's sort of all in line with sort of my logic there. GameQuest says 80s all the way with Duke. Fair enough. Yeah, why not? Why not both? Yeah, you can absolutely have both. I think it's just sort of one of those things, like, if you're gonna have one, which one should you have? And I don't know that you can objectively say, because I think it really depends on why you're collecting G.I. Joe Classified and sort of what you want out of the line. So, let's see. GameQuest says you got to see how the helmet looks on. Okay, I'll put it on. I don't know. I wanted to get it under the arm like it is on the card. I believe it looks good. I'm not. All of the helmets that they've done so far look fantastic. This one's one of the like basic designs. But again, like I said, the visor on mine is crooked, so it looks kind of goofy. But I don't think you guys can really see how it's crooked, but I can see how it's crooked. It looks good. It looks good, but it doesn't look amazing. And it looks like the vintage Duke helmet. I think I'm spoiled because like the Clutch helmet looks amazing. I think Breaker's helmet looks amazing. Grunt's helmet looks absolutely awesome. This one just feels kind of boring. That's, and that's where like the vintage stuff, that's where it is. It's sort of like, it's kind of like, oh, that's great. It's just sort of like, I don't know. It doesn't excite me as much. This helmet looks great. It fits perfectly, but it's just a helmet. It's just a plain green helmet. It doesn't do as much for me as maybe it does for other people. Brick says, yeah, good to know as far as the backpack. I want Jason to consider making the Avian Jetpack compatible with other lines. That's a good call. It would be compatible with these. Let's see. Jeff Morris, I really like the Jada Toy Street Fighter figures. Tune in next Wednesday, Jeff. Well, man down. That backpack made him a little heavy, so I think that's probably why he fell over. Let's see. It's fine. It's fine. Master Versal Toy Hunter says, I've also dove into the 118th World Peacekeepers vehicles. I've never even heard of those. I'll have to look them up. Cheap, yes, but lovely details nonetheless. Work with Vintage Joes or possibly Delta 17 or any re-releases O-rings. Yeah, absolutely. That's a good call. I think a lot of people are going to be looking for stuff like that with, Delta 17, Operation Recall or Operation Longbow Project Recall. What's it? I'm getting confused now. The Marauders are doing an O-ring line. The Skeletron stuff is O-ring. Super 7 is doing their Reaction Plus O-ring figures. There's an absolute like rebirth of the 3 3/4 inch O-ring stuff, and it's awesome to see. And it was exciting at Joe Fest. There was tons of people with their lines, tons of people doing really, really cool stuff. Eagle Force, Call Sign Longbow, Operation Recall. That's what they're called. Who else was there? There were others, and I can't remember. Like I've said this before. I'm not really doing O-ring stuff anymore. I'm good. I can live without the O-ring stuff, and so I'm not keeping as close track on some of those lines. But there's a lot of people making a lot of really cool looking figures if you're into that stuff. So, okay, 59 minutes give or take. I'm getting good at getting these in sort of in an hour. So I think we're gonna wrap it up there. It's been a pleasure. As I always say, it is more fun to open toys with friends. So thank you guys for joining me and hanging out and talking toys while I open toys. I will say I picked up this retro Duke from eCollectibles. That's where I get pretty much all of my toys, with a couple exceptions. If I pick stuff up at cons, That's, just about the only thing that I don't get from them. But yeah, if you need a Retro Duke or any other classified figures, reach out to Mike at eCollectibles, and he will hook you up. That's all I got. That's all I got to say. Hope you guys have a great night. For all of you guys that get a day off tomorrow, have a great day. And I feel bad for you because you have to live where you live, but such is life. Can't all live in Canada. Until next time, guys. Bye-bye.